likely reveal insights about the major issues shaping the general election, like the Israel-Hamas war. Joel Rubin joins us now. He's the former executive director of the American Jewish Congress. He's also a former assistant secretary of state and a Democratic strategist. Joel, thanks so much for being here. We are in the middle of Passover. Tensions on college campuses over the Israel-Hamas war are high. How big will this issue be for people in Pennsylvania today, especially for Jewish voters?
Well, you know, Chris, it's great to be with you. And I'm actually originally from Pittsburgh and grew up in Squirrel Hill in the neighborhood that is known, unfortunately, for the major terrorist attack against the Tree of Life Synagogue. And so the Jewish community in my home neighborhood is very engaged, very focused. And there's a large number of Jewish voters in Pittsburgh and across the state, 300,000 Jewish voters overall, which well surpasses the margin victory that President Biden had 4 years ago when he won by 80,000. So the Jewish vote matters, and it matters in a key swing state like Pennsylvania, also in Ohio and Georgia as well. But really, Pennsylvania, it's where it has its most potential impact.
As Christian mentioned earlier, according to Pew Research, American Jews have historically aligned with the Democratic Party. Those numbers have been going up over the last few years. I'm curious, Joel, could that historical alignment be in jeopardy at all because of President Biden's response to the war in Gaza?
Actually, I think it's going to be strengthened for President Biden, quite frankly. I think what he has done is demonstrate a level of empathy towards Israel that affirms the commitment that this government has to Israel. And by extension, as a result, that is, we will see American Jewish voters strongly support him. You know, American Jews are like all other groups in the United States, voting on a variety of issues, be it the economy, be it climate change, healthcare, abortion, women's right to choose. All of those issues are top of mind. And so you're right. About 3/4 typically is the vote count for Democrats over Republicans in the Jewish community. And I think that the president's going to maintain that because of his strong support for Israel, even with some of the technical difficulties as described in the show ahead of time, or where some folks are concerned about his call for conditions. I think overall he's in a strong position.
We do want to play this interview former President Trump did last month in which he spoke about Jewish voters. Take a listen.
Any Jewish person that votes for Democrats hates their religion. They hate everything about Israel, and they should be ashamed of themselves because Israel will be destroyed.
Trump is likely to be the Republican nominee later this summer. Joel, is his message resonating with Jewish voters?
Well, that's an anti-Semitic message, so that certainly doesn't make Jews feel warm and fuzzy. You know, look, President Trump has a long track record of inciting violence in general, using violent rhetoric. And after Charlottesville white supremacist race riots, where Jews will not replace us was chanted by the protesters, he said, by the marchers, he said there were fine people on both sides. And I think that with President Biden, we see someone in the White House who led the effort to create the first ever national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. That's what's going to work with American Jewish voters, not trying to shame us into voting for him because for some reason he thinks that we hate ourselves because we like having a policy on Israel that supports peace overall. So I think Donald Trump really shows his worst colors when he talks about American Jewish voters.
Joel, while we have you, have we seen the Republican Party as a whole win over more Jewish Americans either through their support of Israel or their denouncement of anti-Semitism?
Yeah, you know, I think it has to be noted. Look, in particular, Elise Stefanik in congressional testimony or in hearings in last December really touched a nerve in the American Jewish community by getting college presidents to publicly waffle on the question of whether or not language towards Jews was anti-Semitic. So clearly there are inroads being made. And clearly on Israel, Republicans are standing with Israel, period, and taking a very hardline position. But overall, American Jews are a broadly liberal community, one of the most liberal in terms of voting patterns over decades now. And that's not just going to change overnight, especially not with someone like Joe Biden, who has been fighting against anti-Semitism aggressively from the White House and standing with Israel emotionally as well as militarily. I think those are
Joel, we have
arguments
about
for the president.
Joel, we have about 30 seconds left. What's going to make the difference for American Jewish voters this election season?
Without a doubt, the big difference is how is anti-Semitism being dealt with here at home. That is the number one concern. The number one concern is our safety, our personal safety, synagogue safety, as mentioning Tree of Life, and now campus safety as well. Who's going to stand up and defend Jewish students, and how are they going to speak broadly about the need to tamp down hate and extremism in our society? That's going to really sway the Jewish voters.
Joel Rubin, former executive director of the American Jewish Congress. Joel, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Chris.
Be well.